Thank you. So today I'm gonna talk about invisible things. Now, if you take a good look at me right now, what do we see? You probably see a young white Asian male who dresses up like a hipster. But this tells you literally nothing about what I think, what I value, what I like. So it's like the ocean. When we look about the water with human eyes, we can see what lies underneath. The depth is invisible. But we can hear stories, we can see photos, and sometimes we dive in ourselves. And in that way, we can experience the ocean. So, I'm deaf, but you wouldn't necessarily know that just by the way I look or the way I speak. And even if you do know that doesn't capture the full immensity of what that could mean. So I want to try something new with you. I want to try to make my invisible disability visible. And to do that, I want to talk about three things. The first one is what deafness is. Then I'll talk about my experience being deaf, and then how VR can be intrusive. So, what is deafness? It's a bunch of different levels, and at the top, we have normal hearing, then mild hearing loss, moderate, severe, and then finally profound. And I have profound hearing loss, which means that I can't hear anything except extremely loud sounds, like an airplane. So, when people say that deafness is a disability, this is what most people mean, that we are objects that are broken. And I can see it in the way people look at me. For the longest time, I thought I was broken too. And I'm also objectified into a reminder of how lucky you are. I am seen as an inspiration just because I'm deaf. One time, somebody said to me that, wow, you're so brave. And I was just sitting down eating dinner. And I knew a person who became a programmer just because I was also a programmer who happened to be deaf. And the implicit thought there was, if David can do it, so can I. And I hope you never see this. But there's an entire depth culture out there, and we connect through hundreds of different sound languages, like American Sign Language, and all these languages are full and which are constantly evolving. And in this society, no one who is deaf is considered to be disabled. Being deaf is not a disability. So when I say I have a disability, this is what I mean. I live in a society where being hearing is the expectation, and so being deaf is disabling. So there are a bunch of mechanical ways we can deal with deafness, and that's if we decide to live in the hearing world as I did. And we can wear hearing aids to amplify the sound that we can detect, or we can get an operation on your quickly so that we can have replacement hair cells, so to speak, or we can learn how to lip read. But the thing is, none of these are solutions. Hearing aids can amplify the sound that we can detect. But what if we can't hear human speech to begin with? or other black. And the cochlear implants, well, if you imagine the human ear, the typical human ear, it has about 20,000 ear cells. And so if you imagine that my piano back at home has 20,000 keys, then you have an idea of what the human ear is like. But for a cochlear implant, the modern ones have about 20 electrodes or 20 piano keys. That's in order, 3 orders of magnitude. And I want to show you what that sounds like to me. I'm not gonna show the recording, but I'm gonna skip over to the 20 channel. See, that's what I have.
What kind of bait do you use to catch salmon? What kind of bait do you use to catch salmon?
Doing the same thing, skipping over to 20 channel. So yeah, that's it. So lip reading is also not a solution. We can only understand about 30% of what we can see on the lips, and we can get more through the context, knowing the context of the conversation, or we can get less because of the environment. So there are tons of people I don't understand either because they have a beard. So I'm looking at you hipsters. Or because they talk a little bit too quick, or they number as they talk. Or maybe we are sitting in a dark theater and I can't even see your face. Or maybe I'm tired and just want to rest my eyes. Or maybe you are nervous and having a coffee cup in front of your lips. So, lip reading is hard. When you are talking to me, I can never close my eyes. And I need constant effort just to be at the same level as you. And because of that effort, I almost never am. But whether you have a cochlear implant, or a hearing aid, or a lip read, it takes work. Work people don't think about. Work listening to audiobooks over and over again until we hate the thought of listening to any more. Work going to audiologist every year, every month, every day. And you also have to pay for these things if we can. But even after thousands of dollars of therapy over years, we might never become good enough to understand someone else. So this is a good time to mention that I also speak from a position of privilege too. I am obnoxiously lucky. I speak pretty well. I have a great job. My parents taught me how to read, and I was reading at the college level by the time I was in high school. But the average high school graduate reads at the level of a fifth grader. it tried chasing with that. So now imagine living somewhere where you are too poor to have accessibility, or parents don't try to communicate effectively with you. So for most the people like me, we never understand hearing people really. We put so much invisible effort just to meet you hearing people halfway. And I want to show you an idea of what it's like to not understand the conversation. And so this is what English sounds like to non-English speakers or the deaf.
Oh, the raising out and ash marine? Doesn't mean read that tradition.
No, crustacean is trapped. I mean, why the cursed soldier for the Magali nation is further granted my Joseph.
Joseph for the Magalon?
Magalon my shit.
Pretty awkward. But this is my life. This video never stops for me. So now you have an idea of what being deaf is, and so I like story. I became a writer so I could write more, and so I want to share some of these stories with you. There are stories about my experience, and some of them are stories I've never told anyone. So the first story is about a friend. We would often go to eat lunch together because we are New Yorkers. And so we would go out to a restaurant, and for whatever reason, I wouldn't understand her, and I would ask her to repeat, but she would, frustration would flash on her face, and no matter how quickly she would try to hide it, I always saw it. And this frustration is something I see in a lot of people. And this person and I are not friends anymore. I ordered food once in a blue moon online, and I always put in the notes that they should text me instead of calling me. But 9 times out of 10, they call me instead. So I'm listening to some guy on the phone because it's always the guy, and I don't know what they're saying. So I'm just like, okay, I'm coming down. I just hope for the best. But hearing culture has a direct dependency on being hearing. Netflix, Hulu, iTunes, other video providers didn't have to caption all their videos until 2 years ago. So that people are always in afterthought. Group conversations often make me feel like an outsider. I went to dinner with about 6 friends. About 6 people, a few of which were my friends, and I was sitting in a thin restaurant with terrible acoustics. It was like an echo chamber, and I didn't understand anything. I asked people if they could repeat. I asked them to tell me what was going on, but I felt like my presence wasn't valued. I felt like just standing up and leaving. I didn't understand why my friend had invited me here if no one was going to include me in the conversation. So this unfortunately happens very often. It doesn't always have to be like that. Last weekend, I went to a friend's housewarming party, so there were about 10 people there. We were all talking about food, so one of my friends asked me, "Hey David, what's your favorite beer?" And and I was like, I don't know. What do we buy with bear? A bear to bite or a big when it's with? And my friend looked at me really strangely. I said, we're talking about our favorite bears, right? My friend said, no, David, we're talking about what's your favorite bagel is. So, but after that, everybody became really curious about what my favorite bear was. So, people are often uncomfortable with me. I was an intern at a huge tech company, and at the end of our internship, we had to give a presentation to all the higher ups. So, in a private meeting with my manager told me that I should record my presentation and give that to the higher ups. And in her only words, she said that this would be a really good opportunity to separate herself from the other interns. But something sounded really off about that. So I asked her, is my voice really that hard to understand? And she froze completely. She said that I don't want to sound insensitive, but yes. And then she just went on to say that my accent was worse than foreign people's accent. But what was really insensitive about what she said is that she didn't try working with me through it. She tried manipulating me instead. So if things are to get better, we have to be comfortable with things getting uncomfortable sometimes. So there are many other stories like this. There are stories of discrimination, of misconceptions. Sometimes people think I need a wheelchair. Sometimes people think I can't drive. But that's my experience. And so now I want to talk about how we are can improve inclusivity. I've been reading a lot about feminism lately from us and some of our co-speakers, and one of the biggest takeaways is that it's never the responsibility of the marginalized group to fix things. And what's the day-to-day situation or bear by themselves, but they bear it up. And we go north, we are dying from 1,000 cuts. So we get angry, we cry, but it never is just because of one of these things. So it's hard to notice that you're not doing something. It's invisible too. But we can spend some time thinking. There's a really easy question we can ask yourself. How can I make this human being feel included? And if you don't know the answer, it's completely okay to ask them how we can help. No one wants the same things. So here's some general stuff that works. We can ask them how we can help. We can tell us what's going on. We can ask, did you get that? Because chances are we don't know. And we can learn how to communicate the way we do. Some of us prefer sound, some of us prefer text. So we try to meet you halfway with all these years of therapy. So now we ask you to do the same. So I know people will love the novelty of learning how to communicate with me, and I've also seen that interest fade over time. especially once they realize it takes work. But at this starter, my coworkers transcribe my meetings for me every single time, and some of them are here today. They respect me as a person, and I know these things make us feel awkward, but we have to push through it because that's what others need. So I talked to you about what deafness is, my experience, and how we can become more inclusive. And this is to show you what my invisible disability is like. So we should be doing things for other people to never debate for them. We should be thinking. We never have to think about it, but they have to think about it all the time. So spend some time thinking about it so they don't have to. And then start doing something about it so they don't have to be the one doing it all the time. So think about the invisible things. Thank you.